So today we're going to make some cranberry brie bites, and these are great for any time of the year. If you're having a party or you're entertaining, these are a great, quick, very impressive appetizer. So for this, you're going to need a half a can of cranberry sauce. So I've got a whole berry cranberry sauce, and I've also got the half of the zest of a lemon, and I just used a little microplane. So if you've never used one of these before, they are wonderful because you can just get a little bit of that zest in there. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to go all the way down to the white. So you can kind of see here, you've got the outer layer and then you have the white, which is called the pith. So you don't want to go that deep because the pith is very bitter. So we've got some lemon zest in there. I've got more in there. I just wanted to show you how to do that. And I'm just going to take a fork. I've got some Saigon cinnamon in here as well. The lemon's really going to brighten this up. And I'm just going to mix that lemon zest and the cinnamon all throughout. And then also just kind of break this up a little bit because this is a canned cranberry sauce. You do definitely want to break this up. You can also make homemade. If you want to learn how to make homemade cranberry sauce, you can get the recipe on our website. That is very lovely too. Go ahead and put the rest of that in there. So you just get that mixed up. So we've got that. I've got a little spoon that I'll use to drop down. And then I have a triple cream brie. Triple cream is what you want to use for your brie bites. I'll take this off so you can kind of see. It's very, very creamy, and it's just a lovely cheese for this particular appetizer. Some people cut the rind off. It's really up to you what you want to do with that. I typically at least do one side of it. I don't love the rind, so I'll just peel it back a little bit. That is good. All right, so I'm going to set this off to the side. I will come through and I will do some little pieces, and that's what's going to go into our little cups here. So I'm going to push this off to the side because I don't have a ton of room. And I've got my little tart cups. This is a mini muffin pan. So you can get one of these online. This is by Wilton. It is nonstick, but I have sprayed it with a little bit of olive oil spray. So that's prepped and ready to go. I have a sifter here that has a little bit of flour in it. And I've got 2 pieces of parchment here, just in case I need to wrap something up. I'm only going to use half of this. And I'm going to take a little bit of this flour. I've also got a rolling pin, and I do have a little pastry wheel. You can just use a pizza cutter or a knife. You don't need any fancy gadgets. I just happen to have this in my arsenal because I do pastry as well. So it comes in handy for that. And when you get this puff pastry, so this is just a frozen puff pastry that you get in the freezer section at the grocery store, you want to remove the little parchment pieces and then slide it around just to get some of that flour on there, especially like the edges. They tend to unthaw, or not unthaw, they tend to get a little bit of wet, a little bit damp. So you do want to make sure this is fully unthawed, and you're going to want to do that in your refrigerator overnight. So just take it out of the freezer the night before you want to use it and stick that right into the refrigerator, and then by morning it will be unthawed. So I'm gonna just cut this in half, and I'm gonna take that piece of parchment that I mentioned earlier, and I'm just going to take 1/2 and I'm gonna wrap it up and pop this into the refrigerator so that I can use this for another project. So anytime you're not working with your puff pastry, you do want to keep it in the refrigerator. So I'm just gonna slide this a little bit here, make sure that I have enough coverage. I am gonna roll this out. So I'm gonna roll this way, and then I can just pick this up and rotate it. Roll up this way. Always roll from the center out. Rotate this around, out of my way. Now, as you might notice, I haven't gone all the way over the edge because I'm trying to thin from the center out first. And I just want to make sure that I have enough here. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get those edges, straighten this up a little bit. and then we'll be ready to cut. So I'm gonna bring this back over, and I'm gonna cut 1, 2, 3, 4 strips at least. So the easiest, I'm gonna pause for 1 second. All right, so the easiest way to divide this is gonna be to cut it in half and then cut it in half again. And then I'm just gonna come through, I'll come through this way and divide these kind of in 3. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm just gonna bring over my little tin here, and I'm gonna set these in here just like so. I want to make sure that it kind of reaches the bottom. You can kind of just go through and do that for all of them. You want to make sure that you have a cup so it's nice and cupped. Otherwise it's just going to leak out. So make sure you take a minute to kind of make sure your placement is allowing you to have enough of the puff pastry coming up the side so that your filling isn't going to leak out. Just like that, right? Kind of rotate this one around so they don't cook into each other. Over my brie, and I'm just gonna cut some pieces of brie here. And like I said, you could cut the bottom rind off if you want. And I'm gonna put a little bit of brie into each one. If it feels like it's too thick, then just peel it off. These ones are a little bit thicker. I want to make sure it sits down inside there. This one's a bit much. This was a 4-ounce block of, or 4-ounce wedge of the triple cream. So I probably used about 3 ounces of it. And then I'm just gonna come over the top here and put some of that cranberry. So I would say 1/2 teaspoon. Melt and get all nice and creamy and yummy. You can leave these in the refrigerator until you're ready to bake them off. I just recommend that you put the cheese on the bottom so that the cheese is touching the bottom rather than the cranberry jelly, so it doesn't make the bottom all soggy, you know, if you have it sitting in the refrigerator. I like to try to get a whole cranberry into each one, so I can kind of come back through and one of those. That looks pretty good. So I will bake this at 375 degrees, and because I rolled this out pretty thin, it could take up to 30 minutes, but I would definitely set a timer for 15 minutes and then one for 30. Check it out at the 15-minute mark, and then you can adjust your time accordingly. So into the oven we go. All right, our cranberry brie bites are done. They only took 15 minutes on convection bake at 375, and they look beautiful. I would let these cool a little bit so that you can pop them out and then put them on a festive tray, and you've got yourself a really delicious appetizer. Enjoy.